almost caused a massive, and I mean massive, scene in H&M because I didn't know this. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sophie and I would love it if you click that big red subscribe button down below. I talk about languages a lot and language learning. I make travel videos and I'm currently studying abroad in Lyon in France, so I make a lot of videos about that as well. So if you are interested in any of those types of videos, definitely make sure to click that big red subscribe button down below and turn on that notification bell as well so that you never miss a video. Anyway, today's video is an exciting one. I feel like I always say today's video is an exciting one, but it is because it is the differences between the UK and France, sorry, and whether I have experienced culture shock here. So I've been living in Lyon now, studying abroad for about 2 months. And I have been to France as well before, but this is the longest amount of time that I've spent in France, and obviously I am British, I think it's quite clear from the accent, and I have basically spent most of my life in the UK, other than having worked as an au pair in Germany and also having spent 2 months in Peru. I've basically always been in the UK, and I did make a culture shock video on the differences between Germany and the United Kingdom, which is actually one of my most viewed videos on my channel still to this day. So I feel like it's only fair to make one as well about the differences between the UK and France. And I just want to say just a quick disclaimer, obviously, like, I don't mean to offend anybody with any of these, it's just a bit of fun, like, and these are just differences that I've noticed. I'm not saying, you know, every French person does this and every British person does this, and also I am aware that, you know, France is a big country, there's different regions and every region is going to be slightly different. So, you know, what I may have observed here in Lyon isn't exactly going to apply for the whole of France. You know, Paris might be very different, or Brittany, I'm sure, is also very different, or down in the southwest where they're close to like Spain, where in parts of the country they actually speak Catalan because of how close they are to Spain. So obviously there's going to be like some cultural differences throughout the country, and even in the UK as well. I've basically spent my whole life, other than having moved to Wales to study at university, I've basically spent my whole life in Basildon in Essex, which is close to London. So I feel like the culture there is quite similar to London and just the rest of Essex, and very different to maybe in the north of the UK. So yeah, I just want to say that, just a quick disclaimer. Feel free to, you know, educate me down in the comment section down below if you don't agree with anything that, you know, I say, because yeah, like I said, every region is different. Okay, I should probably just get into the cultural differences now, because as per usual, I've made this intro way too long. Okay, so if you see me looking at my phone a lot during this video, it's just because I've listed all of the differences that I could think of on the notes section on my phone, because I know that if I don't make a list and if I don't refer to my list, I will miss things out. So yeah, that's why. And the first difference is one that refers to universities, and that is 8 AM lectures. They are a thing in France, which was quite shocking for me because in the UK, the earliest lecture is at 9 AM, and that doesn't mean obviously that every day we all have to go into university at 9 AM. It depends on your timetable. I know last semester I didn't have any 9 AMs at all. I had one 10 AM and the rest of the week everything started at 11 AM. I got quite lucky, and it was all online as well, so I literally could just like stay in bed quite long in the morning, so I got quite lucky there. But yeah, like here I have 2 AAMs, yeah, but I just can't handle the 8 AMs, and I know that this isn't just a French thing, because I've got friends who are currently studying abroad in Spain who have 8am as well. I spoke to my YouTube friend Tony, who's known as Afrolingo on YouTube, and he studies in Germany, and he has like 7am's, I think, or 7:30, I don't know, sometimes 8am's, I don't know, early lectures, a lot earlier than in the UK. And it's quite funny because in the UK, if we have a 9am, we moan about having 9am's. We do not want 9am's, especially if you are one that likes to go out and you've got a 9am the day after student night. Oh, no. That is something that you will moan about because you want to go out and have a good time, but you don't want to be getting up for your 9am. And there are people that just skip their 9am's. I feel like so many people just skip 9am's so often in the UK, and we moan about them, and then you come to Europe and it's like 8am's, and it's like, and I mean, I know technically the UK, well, it's not in the EU anymore, but I know technically it's in the continent of Europe still, although it's kind of separated by the sea. But I guess if you were looking at a map, you know, you would say it's the continent of Europe, but we're quite different in that sense to the rest of Europe. Okay, so the next difference is about the toilets here, public toilets specifically. I know the toilet I've got here is just exactly like the toilet that I would expect to find in the UK and in most Western countries, but public toilets here, often they don't have a toilet seat, which is something that's quite shocking because France is like quite a Western country, and when I think, well, it is a Western country, not quite a Western country, you know, and when I think of Western countries, I think of them all having like the same kind of standard toilets with a toilet seat, you know, like we have in the UK, like they have in the United States. Kind of expect that, but here often, you know, there's some public toilets that will have toilet seats, but most of them don't. Like at the university, none of the toilets have toilet seats, and I'm like, why? It's much more comfortable to sit on a toilet with a toilet seat. I also feel like it's more hygienic. Like I never really feel very clean about, I don't know, I don't really like toilets without toilet seats. I'm like, oh, do I squat? I mean, sometimes I do that in public anyway because they're dirty, but I don't really like squatting whilst I pee. So I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. I don't really like that. And the third difference is again about public toilets. And that's about the public toilets that you just kind of find out and about in the city. If you are looking for a public toilet in France, I have noticed, and I noticed this before I was studying abroad in Lyon, I noticed this when I went to Paris and Montpellier in 2019, I noticed that often the public toilets are just like this one little cubicle, and it's really weird because this one little cubicle as well, it like self-cleans itself, which I didn't realise right away. And I was queuing up for this toilet in Paris, and there was this massive long queue, and people were coming out of the toilet, and the next person wasn't going in straight away. And I was like, why? There is a massive long queue. Surely you need to pee or whatever. So why are you not going in and using the toilet now that it's free? And then when I got closer and I was like trying to read everything that it said on the toilet, because I was like, why is no one going straight in the toilet straight away, I realised that there was like this little light system to do with cleaning, and basically it would tell you when the toilet was like occupied, and then afterwards it would be like cleaning, and then it'd be like you could go in. So the toilet cleans itself and you don't go in right away. And I think it's just because it sprays water everywhere, because when I went into the toilet afterwards, like I did wait, there was like water like everywhere, like the floor was all wet. So good job there was a long queue, because if there wasn't a long queue and I hadn't noticed that people were waiting after the person before them had left the toilet, I would have just walked straight in and I would have got soaking wet, and I would have been like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, that's definitely weird. And just like in the UK, they're not really cubicles anyway, public toilets. If you go to a public toilet, usually it's like a block of cubicles with like a separate, a separate room of cubicles for people who identify as male and a separate room of cubicles for people who identify as female, when here in France it just seems to be one random cubicle for everyone that self-cleans itself. It's very bizarre. Okay, so this next one is one that I definitely wish I had known previously, because I almost caused a massive, and I mean massive, scene in H&M because I didn't know this, and I responded to the situation in what I think is a very British way. At least I think so anyway, because it's to do with queuing, and you know, there's a stereotype about us Brits loving queues, and we do, like, I don't know if we love queues as such, but we respect the rules of queues. We have a certain system, you know, to queue in, and we don't like people who cut in, things like that. So I think I responded to this situation in a very British way, but obviously I'm not in the UK, I'm in France, and things are different here, and I didn't know that the rules to queue in were different. So yeah, it is that here in France, women who are pregnant or people who have a disability, I'm pretty sure it's any disability, but I don't really know the full depths of this, because I literally recently learnt this anyway, can skip the queue in any shop. I'm pretty sure it's any shop, not just supermarkets or anything like that, any shop, because, well, this happened in H&M, and they don't need the person who they are going in front of to say, you know, you can go in front of me. They can just skip, they can just go up to the server and say, look, I'm pregnant, or look, here's a card that says I'm disabled, or you can see I'm disabled, I don't really know. Basically that's what they do, that's what I've noticed anyway. They just kind of speak to the cashier. And yeah, so I was in H&M and I was queuing. I'd been queuing for a very long time. I was getting a bit tired of queuing, and also there was like quite a lot of people in the queue, and I don't really like standing next to people in a queue for too long because of, you know, the current global pandemic. I just like to, you know, get my stuff and go. So I was getting very like stressed, and I just wanted to, you know, pay and be gone. And I saw this woman like coming in at the side out of nowhere when I had been queuing for a while, and I could see that this woman was clearly pregnant. But in the UK, pregnant women don't skip queues. I don't mean to say it, make us sound horrible like that. You know, we do respect that, you know, obviously I can't really say what it's like to be pregnant because I have never had a child or been pregnant or anything like that. But obviously we respect that, you know, it can make life, it makes life harder, you know, you've got morning sickness, you need to pee more, and I don't know, stuff like that. So we respect that. And you know, if we're on public transport and we see a pregnant woman, for example, we offer them to take our seat if there's no seats. And it's not like they come along and they expect us to give them our seats. We offer. That's kind of how it works in the UK. And obviously I was just seeing this pregnant woman coming in at the side. She didn't say to me, can I go in front of you? She said, can I go in front of you? I'm pregnant, I'm having a bad day or whatever. I would have been like, yeah, sure, whatever. I know I've been waiting a while and it's a bit annoying, but yeah, obviously I don't know what it's like to be pregnant. So I would just let her go in front. But I saw her coming in on the side without even saying anything, and to me that is wrong. That is cutting in. I literally stopped recording for a bit because there was noise coming from my neighbour's room, and now my fridge is making noise. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I'm pretty sure there's still noise coming from my neighbour's room as well. I gave up in the end. I knew this was going to happen. I knew if I stopped and waited, my fridge would start making noise. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, what was I saying? So I could see her cutting in, and you know, I don't cause arguments. Like, I know some people will argue in the UK about queues. I have watched my dad argue with people in Orlando, Florida, in Disney World for skipping the queues so many times when I was younger. So that's probably where I get it from as well. But I like to just, unless I can see that someone is jumping ahead because they've got a friend or a family member who is in the queue already and they're joining them, I get quite annoyed, and I like to basically just, I don't argue, but if I see they're trying to cut in, I kind of rush forward. I insert myself forward. I'm like, no, you're not. I am here. I make myself present. And that is basically what I did in H&M. It was my turn, at least I thought. It was actually the pregnant woman's turn because I didn't know the rules. So I basically just inserted myself forward, like, no. And the woman at the counter was like, what are you doing? She goes first, like, quite aggressively. And I was like, what do you mean she goes first? Like, I was here first. And she's like, but she's pregnant. I'm like, yeah, I can see she's pregnant. What does that... Oh, and then I just was kind of like, is that how it works in France? And she was like, yes. And I just like, oh, I'm English. In England, it doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. And then I just turned to the woman and was like, I'm sorry, I'll go back. Like, you can go ahead, because obviously I'm more than happy to follow the rules in France because I am living in France. I just didn't know that that was the way things worked. So yeah, the woman at the cashier was literally shouting at me. So this is what I mean by I always cause a scene. And I couldn't understand why she was shouting at me, because in my head I was in the right. But as soon as she explained, I obviously knew that I was in the wrong. It's just different. So I just went back, and the woman, the pregnant woman, she was completely understanding. She was lovely. She just went and paid, and like as she was paying, she just turned around to me and she said, just so you know, like in France, it's not just pregnant women that can skip the queue, it's people who have a disability as well. So in the future, if I see anybody go ahead and be in the queue and, you know, I can't see that they're physically pregnant or disabled, I'm just going to assume that they have some sort of disability that I can't see, or that they're pregnant and in the early stages or whatever, and I'm just going to accept it and not question it, because yeah, obviously that's how things work here, and I don't want to cause a scene. I'm living in France, so I need to respect obviously how things work here in France. Okay, and the next one is that people tend to be more relaxed here than in the UK, especially when it comes to like following rules and stuff. So for example, fire safety is one that I've definitely noticed. In my student residence, they don't take fire safety so seriously. They're so relaxed about it, and it does kind of scare me that they don't take it so seriously, because I'm like, what if one day there is an actual fire? But like, for example, the fire alarm has gone off 3 times since I've been here. Each time I've gone downstairs, they've just gone, oh, it's just the people in like in building D or whatever, they haven't been opening their windows. Like I have to go through reception to leave, to queue up, and I have never queued up when there's been a fire drill, because every time I just go through reception, they're like, no, go back to your room, it'll go off soon. It's just the people in Battlement D, Building D, without their window, leaving their windows, not opening their windows when they're cooking or whatever. But in the UK, even if the person working in the reception of the building or wherever you're staying, whatever, knows that that is the case, they would still have to fully investigate it, and you would have to queue outside whilst it's being investigated, just in case it is a real fire. And it has gotten to the point where I have noticed there are less and less people going outside, like going downstairs to go outside. Even the first time, there weren't that many people going downstairs to go outside. I was like, what's going on? I came out of my room and I saw that she one person leaving their room, and I was like, there is a fire alarm, why is there no one leaving? I went down to like the reception area, there was like 3 other people heading towards the door, and I was like, there is a lot more than 5 people in this building, why is no one leaving? It's just so much more relaxed. It's like, oh, it's probably not a real fire, but like, well, when it is a real fire and everyone's going, oh, it's just the people in building D again, they'll just tell us to go back up to our rooms. People are gonna die. That's what's gonna happen. Okay, and this next one is one that people warned me about, but I didn't fully believe it, and that is that being a vegetarian in France is hard. Well, harder than in the UK. I'm sure there's other countries in the world where it's even harder than in France. I think the situation is better in France than it used to be from what I've heard talking to my French flatmates, but it is still like a lot harder than the UK. It's harder here, like there's less vegetarian options for eating out. Obviously I feel like cooking for yourself is all right, and there is like vegetarian section in Carrefour in the freezer and in the fridge and in other supermarkets as well, like you can find stuff, but they don't have corn. They have like other stuff. It always seems to be made from like wheat, and it's never, in my opinion, the veggie stuff that they have in the supermarket here isn't as good as the stuff that we can get in the UK, and there's always a lot smaller selection, and often it's not vegan. Okay, I came here vegetarian. I was pescatarian for a year, and then because I was taking baby steps to being vegetarian, and I was like, this is the year I'm gonna go vegetarian. And I broke it within a month and a half of being here because of the €1 meals at the university. Now I thought at the university they would have like a decent like veggie selection, like have a veggie option, because I feel like vegetarian is a lot more popular with the younger generation than the older generation for vegetarianism and veganism and stuff. So I thought they would have like something that was vegan or whatever, and they don't have anything that's vegan. Every veggie thing I've had there, like every veggie meal that I've had to take home, always has something on the list that is like milk or something that is not suitable for vegans. And also they have like these €1 meals. How it works is like they have meals that are cold and you can heat up in the microwave for 3 minutes, and they're designed that you take home and eat them for dinner. And then they have hot meals that are there, and for some reason they always have a vegetarian cold meal and never a vegetarian hot meal. At least like at the university restaurant that I'm going to, there's quite a few different restaurants dotted around the city, but the one I go to, or at least the two that I've been to, have never had a hot vegetarian meal. And this is where I broke my vegetarianism, because I got fed up of being told that I could only have the side, and then when I was getting the side they weren't even giving me a bigger portion of it. And one day I went and the side was just plain rice and carrots, and I was like, well, I'm not eating plain rice and carrots, so I ate a steak haché. Yeah, it's definitely not the same as in the UK, and if places do have an option, it is usually just like one option and it might not be vegan. So if you're coming to France and you are like vegetarian or vegan and you plan to eat out, I definitely recommend getting something like Happy Cow. I haven't used it, but I haven't really been eating out much whilst I've been here because restaurants are shut, so it's only like takeaway places, and also I'm like trying to save money. But there's stuff about. There is a nice ice cream parlour in Lyon that has like, I think, more vegan flavours than non-vegan flavours, and it's like listed very clearly what is vegan and what's not vegan. And the next one is that French universities are so much more disorganised than in the UK, and I know that at the moment it's kind of hard to say that because all universities are more disorganised. Like I know that they've got a lot more stuff to deal with because of the pandemic, but I have heard from other people that have studied in France before the pandemic that French admin is bad, and I was warned about it and I came here and it is bad, so I know it is that. It's also disorganised. For example, when I first got here, obviously courses were online. I applied for my courses, I did everything that they told me to do to apply for my courses and be enrolled on each course, but I didn't have access to their Moodle page for each courses, which is where you find like everything that basically the teacher uploads, like the links to the online lectures, the documents you need to the class, basically everything you need is there, and I couldn't access them. And I didn't have the links to certain classes. I literally missed like so many classes in my first 2 weeks, and you're only allowed to miss like 2 seminars per course as well, and like one of them I'd already missed 2. I missed 2 just because I couldn't get the link, and I was like getting really stressed, and I was like, oh my god, if I miss another one, it's going to affect my attendance, I won't get my Erasmus grant, I need that money. Like it was a mess, and just trying to get it sorted out was a mess because I was emailing people and just not hearing back for a while, so missing a class. Even if I emailed the lecturer beforehand to say I can't access your class, I would just miss it, and then randomly after the class would have the link and it'd be like, oh great, now I have the link, but I've got to wait another week to the class and I've already missed stuff and I don't know if he said anything important, and yeah, it was just a mess. And I remember one of the classes as well, the teacher left, so I couldn't even email the lecturer and be like, I don't have access to this class, because I knew that he left. He said in one of the other classes that I did have access to that he was leaving and there was going to be a support, and then I couldn't find the email address of the support because I only had their first name and part of their last name. They had a double barrow last name and I only had part of it. So I was emailing them and it weren't coming back, and I was emailing other people and nobody was giving me the email address of who I needed to email. And the woman who does the admin for the Faculty of Languages, who organises it all, was like, sorry, I can't help you because only the lecturer can give you access to the course. I was like, well, can you give me the lecturer's email? Like, no one could. Like, it took me ages to realise that the lecturer actually had a double barrel name, and to email the lecturer and get that class. And so it really helped me, and I was just left. It's so stressful. And I feel like in the UK it's just like, that would happen. In the UK, I've never had a problem with not being able to access my online classes. I've never had a problem with nothing showing up. And if there was a problem, I feel like it would be sorted so much quicker. And whenever I email somebody, if it is the wrong person, they can always give me the email of who I need to email, or an email of someone else who will know who I need to email, so I can get things sorted. Whereas here, it was like, okay, well, you can't help me, but do you know who can? No, that was it. That was it. No one could help me. That was it. Great. Well, this is great. Okay, so that's it for this video. Please do let me know if you enjoyed it by giving it a big thumbs up. It really helps me to know what type of videos that you like, so I can continue making content that you will enjoy. And definitely subscribe as well if you're not already, and turn on that notification bell as well, and comment down below in the comment section if you I don't know, if you are living in France or you're living in the UK and you've noticed any differences between the two, or just anywhere. Just talk about cultural differences, or just not even just cultural differences, just differences that you have experienced when you've been living abroad or traveling or spending you know, a long period of time abroad. I'll be interested in reading those, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.